The money printer just got turned back on. This is crazy. I want to go through what the Bank of England just announced. I also want to cover some crypto news towards the end of the video, and I do want to thank Solve.Care. They're a partner of the channel. I'll talk more about them later. There are timestamps underneath the video in case you want to skip around a bit. Now, the market today isn't looking too bad. If we look on the 24-hour, yes, we're down pretty significantly for crypto because we were up around 20,200 or something like that yesterday on Bitcoin. Then we fell down. Now we're still sitting above that $19,000 mark. The indexes are doing fairly well as well. Now, moomoo is a partner of the channel too. If you want up to 15 free stocks, you can sign up underneath the video, and it's a great platform to use. You can deposit $100 and get some free money there. Now, we have the DXY obviously just going to the moon over the last couple months, and this has caused a little bit of a problem. So we know that the British pound hit a record low earlier this week because Britain announced something kind of unprecedented. Obviously, we know that there's such high inflation in the world, especially in the UK and the US. That's what we typically look at, even more other places as well. But a lot of this is due to the money printing that we had back in 2020. Now, UK's inflation is still 9.9%, and we know what that means. Typically, banks like to increase interest rates, and it's kind of a tightrope because they have their own debt that they can't increase too much. But that's typically the best way to lower inflation. People don't want to borrow as much. People don't want to buy as much. It pretty much cools down the economy. Now, last week, or earlier this week, I should say, the UK announced that they are going to have the largest tax cuts in half a century. So that's pretty stimulatory. And they're also going to boost borrowing to pay for public spending. Okay, so kind of unprecedented in a time like this. They're trying to walk this tightrope with inflation, but also not crush the economy into a recession. So they started to do this stimulatory action. Now, they just announced something interesting today. So this is the second money printer item. Bank of England will buy UK bonds at whatever scale is necessary to halt crash. So what's happening basically is we have the US raising interest rates. They're raising interest rates faster than Britain, which causes the yields to be higher on US debt. People also like US debt better anyways because it's safer in a lot of people's minds. So people aren't buying bonds in the UK anymore. They think they're kind of a joke, right? Especially after some of this news earlier this week that they're stimulating the economy. So people are thinking maybe they're not going to raise rates as much as people think. And then why would you buy these lower yields when you can get higher yields in the US? Now, there's more to it than that, of course, but that's how it goes right now. Some people are also wondering why would you buy right now? Because if they really do believe that England is going to continue to increase rates, then you're going to have the value of your bonds go down, because when you have yields go up, which every time that they increase rates, the yields go up, the value of the old bonds goes down because you could get a higher yield somewhere else. So there's not a lot of people interested in buying UK bonds right now. However, we just got word that they're going to be buying bonds at whatever scale necessary to halt crash. Now, what's this crash that they're talking about? Well, they got warned by pension funds, by hedge fund managers, that there is a margin call coming. And that's because they are actually leveraged and the value of their bonds are going down. People are moving their money other places. So this is going to cause margin calls in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and they have very illiquid portfolios. So they're in this hard spot, this tough place. So the UK government, or the Bank of England, is going to come and bail them out essentially by buying their bonds. So they're doing all this at a time where they're trying to decrease inflation. This is unprecedented. I think this is definitely causing a lot of ripples and causing a lot of people to wonder what they're doing, trying to understand whether they're actually reputable. Now, we had the US Treasury go up to about 4 last night. Now it's come down a little bit since the UK announced this. I think some people are saying, hey, maybe we should put some money in UK because they're willing to buy out the bonds if it goes wrong. So I think this does make a good case for crypto, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But first, I want to thank Solve.Care. Now, before we go any further, I want to talk to you about partner of the channel, Solve.Care. They're an advanced healthcare platform running on the blockchain. They're a real company, and you can see that they have about 31,000 followers on Twitter, including KuCoin. They also have a LinkedIn with 59 employees. Now, they just made a big announcement. Solve.Care, the healthcare blockchain platform company, announced the launch of Care.Labs, which allows users to access the revolutionary Care.Lab portal. The company describes Care.Labs as a healthcare imaginarium, a place where users can envision and then easily author decentralized healthcare applications or dApps without any need for any programming, blockchain, or even Web3 knowledge. So they're bringing the real breakthrough of Web3 and leading mass adoption, beginning with the healthcare industry. As we know, especially in the US, it's not very efficient. To sum up what they did, they made developing very easy. Care.Labs allows anyone to create dApps in minutes. Companies can also use Care.Labs as a portal without even having to understand how Web3 works. They're doing this by using the blockchain, and there's no single point of failure. They also have a token that's worth about $20 million in terms of market cap. It's available on KuCoin among some other exchanges. So I would suggest going and learning more about this. There are links to all this underneath the video. Now, I think this makes a good case for crypto because of the fact that it is trustless. At least Bitcoin is trustless. And obviously, people are going to have trust issues after everything that's going on the last few years. People didn't think we should stimulate as much as we did. People didn't think we should be in lockdown. Some people didn't. Some people think that what they're doing now is idiotic, raising rates this much in this amount of time. Some people think it's idiotic that the banks are coming in and bailing out pension funds and hedge funds right now. It's just a really interesting time to be looking at Bitcoin, which is at one of the cheapest prices that's been in a year or 2 years, and there's still so much need for it, right? I think it's a great reason to buy Bitcoin in the future, seeing all this unfold. Now, I do want to cover a couple other things in crypto. Bankrupt crypto lender Voyager to sell assets to Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX for $1.4 billion. The bid was valued at roughly $1.4 billion, a figure that includes $1.3 billion for the fair market value of Voyager's digital assets, plus $111 million additional consideration in anticipated incremental value. Essentially, that's just a little bit extra on top of their $1.3 billion, just in case crypto assets go up. Now, I think this kind of makes sense too, because if they were to go buy these assets on the open market, 1.3 billion in crypto, the fact is it would pump up a lot of these cryptos. So they're able to get a kind of an over-the-counter transaction with this. And they're also, I think more importantly for them, they're going to be able to transition some of the customers over to FTX.us. Because Voyager was growing pretty quickly. Of course, a lot of those clients probably just won't touch crypto again, or they'll go with their own broker. They already have their own, or they're already using a different wallet or something like that, different app. But some will transition over to FTX.us. I think Voyager had over 1 million people that had funded accounts on their platform towards the end. So even if they're able to get 100,000 or a couple 100,000, I think would be a added bonus for FTX.us, since they're essentially just buying this at the cost of their crypto. So definitely beneficial to them. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to get repaid. They talk about Mt. Gox here. People are still waiting from 2014 to get their crypto, and they are unsecured debtors. So I'm sure that FTX is going to try to help in some way, whatever that may be. I'm not exactly sure, but they want to keep this kind of white knight approach where they're helping everyone out and people like them a lot. So something to pay attention to if you're an old Voyager customer. We also have some Robinhood news and some Polygon news. So Robinhood is using Polygon as its first blockchain for their new Web3 wallet. They talk about why they're doing this because they offer scalability, speed, and low network fees, and a robust developer ecosystem, according to Robinhood. Now, there are faster, lower cost options as well, but Polygon is pretty low cost, and they've actually been beaten down pretty bad this year, but they've been announcing some good partnerships and big acquisitions. They're down 71% this year, down to 75 cents. I think right around their peak, they're around $3. So honestly, they were peaking right at the very, very end of last year after Bitcoin peaked. So this is another crypto I talked about last month, just in my top cryptos to buy or top cryptos to watch, because it does have a lot of potential. They're making a lot of big partnerships. For example, they also announced Starbucks with their Web3 reward member experience, and they're using Matic as well. So be on the lookout for this. They have a lot of big partnerships, and I think they're going to do really well in the next bull run. And the last thing I want to cover is the super high expense of U.S. homes right now. Since the Fed is raising rates so aggressively, we know mortgage rates on the 30-year are actually above 7% right now, which is great for cash buyers, but terrible for anyone that's trying to get a loan, because we haven't quite seen the housing market fall down. And Jerome Powell mentioned that he thinks that we could see a correction, or we should see a correction to make everything a little bit more affordable. And right now, the percentage of your housing payment compared to the median income just went over 50%. This is nearly double what the number was 2 years ago. This is a really interesting thing to look at, because it really shows that this is unaffordable for almost everyone in the US, at least the median income. This is just crazy to think that someone would spend half of their income, but I'm sure there are people watching this video that are doing just that. If you're buying a house right now, it's horrible. Now, if you're able to buy a house just a couple years ago, the fact is you could get it at a much lower rate. Like a year ago, since interest rates were at 2 or 3%, you could have gotten it at 32.6%. If you could have gone a year back further, housing prices were lower. Now, maybe interest rates were not quite as low, maybe 3 or 4%, but housing prices were lower, and you could get it for 28% of your income. So just shows that there has to be some kind of correction if we want to make housing affordable, which is what Jerome Powell said essentially in the last meeting, which is great for anyone that wants to buy real estate. So keep your eyes on that. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about the UK and them coming in and turning on the money printer, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.